Today we will be talking once again about XLM and the very expansive ecosystem that it has developed so far that is being used and applied right now. So today we will concentrate upon this top right part, which I think my next three pieces of content will be about these individual projects. I did make a overview deep dive of all three of these, which I will include in the description and a link. But today I want to focus on bridge, and I'm just gonna call it that because I have a hard time with pronouncing the ST sound, and I try to avoid sounding like I'm more of an idiot than I sound as it is. So this is, in a nutshell, what the bridge project actually is. And in short, it is an XLM to Ethereum bridge that can be used to create smart contracts on the Ethereum virtual machine, as well as a number of other things as well. So to review, there is a wallet that you put your actual XLM on, and then you have this bridge account, which is what is connecting your XLM side and your Ethereum side. And that is on the account side here and on the contract side here. And those would flow through the actual bridge application itself, which is a trust minimized integration bridge between XLM and other chains, i.e. Ethereum here. And there are two types of asset transfers, which I will explain more in a bit. There are local assets, which are common assets on chain, which is primarily XLM, and then wrapped assets as well, which you essentially replicate other assets on XLM. So I think a lot of us are familiar with that, with all of the Ethereum wrapping options. Oh man, it's an ugly day today. I apologize. I don't know why. I've just been having an extra hard time, and that is really fun. So how these bridge accounts and contracts work is that you program it with a certain number of validators, and that is in an M of N configuration. So for example here, it's in a 3 out of 5. So you have to get 3 out of 5 approvals there, and you have to collect those approvals on your contract side as well. So I think it'll make more sense when I actually read through the actual article from the SDF. So this right here is how it works in even more of a nutshell. So it goes from an XLM wallet, and then once you set everything up for the conversion of XLM to Ethereum and the contracts and everything, your operators will observe and validate the actual transaction, which you can then put things out onto the Ethereum virtual machine. So now I'm not explaining anything that is new. However, in my experience so far, there's not a lot of general awareness out there about what a lot of other projects have and what they are actually working on right now. It seems to be concentrated on what the core um, concentrations of each project do, and then of course it's a lot of price action talk. But I have become much more interested in finding out what these projects are actually working on to revolutionize the entire financial services industry. And I think XLM in particular has been we're working on a lot of things, especially over the last 2 years or so, that have set them up to be a very powerful player once we get true regulatory clarity and adoption. So this is a trust minimized bridge between XLM and other chains. It is from March of 2022. So you have and so XLM is becoming an established interoperability layer between a wide variety of financial systems. Today, we can redeem assets in XLM while it's off network for an actual fiat currency, or more importantly, we can exchange between currencies at a faster rate and lower cost than on existing rails. And I think we all understand that when it comes to XLM and even XRP. But if they want to move forward to quote unquote create equitable access to the world's financial infrastructure, it has to be a bridge, not just to the financial system today, but the financial system that it is evolving into, which now includes other networks as well. That's why participants in the XLM ecosystem like Pendulum and Flare are enabling access to other chains. So today they are concentrating on Bridge, which is a trust minimized integration between XLM and ETH, and it is all about interoperating transfer of value, decentralized, fast transaction speeds, essentially, with low fees. So some of the highlights there, they are concentrating on opening up into DeFi, which we are hearing a lot about in terms of international crypto adoption now. Transfer value, that makes sense. XLM assets and Ethereum ERC20 tokens should be transferable each way with equal capabilities and functionality. Decentralized offline wallet support, which I think is interesting because that is unique to the more developing areas of the world that XLM in particular has been trying to concentrate on. Throughput and latency, that's essentially just talking about fast transaction feeds. So there are two types of assets, local assets and wrapped. Local assets are the assets on a chain that people are already using, for example, XLM. And then a wrapped asset is a recreation of a different token on that operates on a different network on the network that you are actually operating on. So Bridge will use these assets to perform two different types of transfers: a send of a local asset that will be used as a wrapped asset, and a return of a wrapped asset that unlocks a local asset. And that is explained here. You go from XLM into an account, and then on the Ethereum side, you have ETH coming out of an account with a contract, and you create an ERC20 contract. It's that same thing here, except it's operating opposite to how I just explained, or attempted to explain, because I can hardly talk today. Oh, okay. But hey, I'm still here. So when local assets are deposited, they will be locked up in an account or contract. That is what we refer to as total value locked, and is a common way to gauge the success of a network. So here's how Bridge works at a high level. The account contract where the actual assets are locked up will be controlled by a group of operators. Each operator will hold their own unique key, and altogether they will control that account and or contract. Control and decentralization will be established with an M of N. So that just means 3 out of 5 or 4 out of 5, or however that works, which is explained in an example here. So the flow of a transfer takes only a few steps. One, to initiate a transfer, you have to deposit an asset into one chain, or if it is returning a wrapped asset, burn the asset using the issuing account or contract. Then the receiving wallet will request bridge nodes to replicate the deposit onto the other chain. The nodes all independently observe the deposit on the sending chain, and in the context of the relative confirmation times of the respective chain. Once Bridge itself has observed the event, the nodes will sign the inverse operation for the actual destination chain. The receiving wallet collects signatures until it has enough to meet M of N, and then the receiving wallet takes those signatures to submit a transaction or call a contract, completing the actual transfer. So that works in reverse as well. At this point in time, it was early in development. So here's where I want to expand upon it a bit and include some connections that I have made that may or may not be true, but in my opinion, we don't know the actual truth of where a lot of the big moves in the entire crypto industry are actually happening, because it is happening behind a lot of closed doors, and it's happening in between a lot of very large and powerful traditional financial institutions as well. So for anyone familiar with Whiplash 347, it's an account that is pretty out there, and it's pretty conspiratorial, but this right here is 100% true. I'm just going to say light makes bridge possible, and light is a payment protocol for XLM. I have explained that in the overview in the video, in the link in the description, but I will explain that more as well. Bridge makes Project Dunbar possible, and I have talked more about that with my content on XDC, but I haven't gone too far into that one individually yet. But it is an XDC. Well, it is a CBDC project that has XDC as a bridge in between different countries' CBDCs, and I won't read that, but I have talked about some things around gold and XRP and XLM as well. So here's where I began to make some connections that are probably pretty far out there, but I think that it's important to at least consider these kinds of things, because I do think a lot of these kinds of things are actually happening, and we won't know about it until everything is actually complete, and then they come out and actually announce it. So I began to look more into the involvement between JP Morgan and Ethereum. Well, if you're at all familiar with the whole ETHgate thing with XRP, then you'll know that that consensus is heavily involved with with Ethereum itself, and that MetaMask is a product of consensus that has been picked up in part by JP Morgan Chase. Now, why am I trying to actually make this point? Well, here we show that JP Morgan has at least a 10% ownership piece of MetaMask under what they have called Project North Star. Okay, I'm just gonna have to get through this one today, y'all. Okay, so that was from 2022. I have another older one. It's from 2019, and it talks more about JPM coin, Ethereum, and Quorum. So essentially, Chase seems to be using a private chain forked from the Ethereum codebase and called it Quorum. It is which is an enterprise version of Ethereum. Jesus Christ. Okay. So the thing that I wanted to concentrate on here is that JP Morgan's ultimate goal is to link up to other public chains, which might be possible through projects like Polkadot that are focusing on communication bridges between different chains, right? Well, this made me go back to Project Spacewalk, which is operating on the, well, it's not operating on it. It is connecting to this pendulum project, which connects Polkadot, ETH, and XLM to do a number of things across a number of different networks and chains. So that is really interesting because, again, we have another indirect tie in between JP Morgan Chase and XLM. So then if you go to the actual Quorum site, I mean, it is obvious that they are built upon Ethereum. It calls out consensus here. And we got Microsoft, JP Morgan, don't really know those right there off the top of my head, except the South African Reserve Bank. If you go to products, I don't know how much it'll have here because I don't care. Yeah, that's not helpful. But my big point is that we have more proof or more suggestion that JP Morgan Chase and Quorum, built on Ethereum, connect to XLM as well, because we have the Hyper Ledger, which looks like it is involved in the actual development and code of Quorum itself. Now, I don't know a whole lot about code at all, but we have more connections between with Hyper Ledger itself that is so heavily connected to things like XLM. IBM itself has the World Wire platform, which actually runs on XLM, and Hyper Ledger connects it to all kinds of other projects like XRP. I believe Quant is in there. I think XDC is in there. I think Casper has a tie in there too, but it is essentially connecting all of the core projects that I am actually interested in this financial technology space. So it is just another indirect way of saying that I do think that there is at least some co-involvement between ETH, JP Morgan, and XLM itself, all because of this bridge project and the fact that Quorum actually runs on ETH as well, and because JP Morgan owns a piece of MetaMask, which would open it up to a lot of other applications as well. So that was a little all over, and I was having an extra hard time on that, and I apologize about that. But I do think that it is important to think in these abstract ways and connect these different kinds of projects, and in particular the XLM and XRP projects, just because they are so intertwined with their PayPal mafia origins and the different partnerships that they have made that connect them more and more.